Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktavindra Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirajet Nastakaishwa Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we'll be reading, continuing with Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Text 17. Yesterday we did 16. 17 today.
Today we are doing text
17.
17.
Yasya Nahankrito Bhavo Yasya Nahankrito Bhavo Buddhir Yasya Nalipyate Buddhir Yasya Nalipate Hatvapi Sa Imalokan Hadvati Sa Imalokan Na Hanti Na Nibhadyate Na Hanti Na Bidvadyate Yasya Nakarinto Bhavo Yasya Nakarinto Bhavo Buddhir Yasya Nalipyate Hatva Pisa Imalokan Na Hanti Na Nibhadyate Yasya Nahan Krito Bhavo Buddhir Yasya Nalipyate Hatva Pisa Imalokan Nahanti Na Nibhadyate Yasya Nahan Krito Bhavo Buddhir Yasya Nalipyate Hatvapi Na Imalokan Nahanti Na Nibhadyate Yasyana Krito Bhavo Buddhir Yasyana Lipyate Hatva Pisa Imalokan Nahanti Nani Bhajate Yasya, one whose Na, never Ahankrita, of false ego, Bhavaha, nature, Buddhi, intelligence, Yasya, one whose Na, never Lipyate, is attached, Hatva, killing, Api, even, Saha, hate, Iman, this, Lokan, world, Na, never, Hanti, kills, Na, never, Nibhadyate, becomes entangled. Translation. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. Repeat, please. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. Bhaktivedanta purport. In this verse, the Lord informs Arjuna that he desires not to fight arises from false ego. Arjuna thought himself to be the doer of action, but he did not consider the supreme sanction within and without. If one does not know that a super sanction is there, why should he act? But one who knows the instruments of work, himself as the worker, and the Supreme Lord as the Supreme Sanctioner, is perfect in doing everything. Such a person is never illusioned. Personal activity and responsibility arise from false ego and godlessness, or a lack of Krishna consciousness. Anyone who is acting in Krishna consciousness under the direction of the Supersoul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though killing, does not kill, nor is he ever affected by the reactions of such killing. When a soldier kills under the command of a superior officer, he is not subject to be judged. But if a soldier kills on his own personal account, then he is certainly judged by a court of law. Oma gena kimiranda siyanjananda nashalakaya. Yakshurum nitamyena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Nadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsta Shri Rupam Sagyada Tam Sajana Lalitam Vikram Tam Sanjivam Sadvaitam Savavitam Parijana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Star He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabhandi Jagat Fate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaskute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhudaya Vacha Patitanampa Nebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. one who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. So in this verse today, Krishna is trying to explain to Arjuna how to execute authority. The authority comes from a superior who gives orders and the subordinate obeys that order. So we can see that at the beginning of the battle of Kurukshetra and at the beginning of speaking the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was despondent. He had arguments quoting Shastra, but he did not know the full import and purport of what he was saying. So Krishna had to try and bring him back to his original Krishna consciousness, because it says that he was covered by false ego. When one is covered with false ego, then their actions, their thoughts, their deeds are not Krishna conscious. So up to the time that Arjuna accepted Krishna as his spiritual master, Shishyasteham, up to the time that Arjuna accepted Krishna as his spiritual master, there was nothing that Krishna could do. And once he had accepted, then he had to come under the control of Krishna. And he had to be completely submissive to the authority of Krishna. This was despite that they were both age mates and friends. So we realize that sometimes even friends can become your spiritual master. We have the good example of Srila Vyasadeva. His son became a spiritual master. Even when they were having the Yagya in Amisharanya, just to hear the Bhagavatam, him being a very young man was actually elevated to the highest position. He was elevated to the highest position. And that one there was because he had the deepest realization of Godhead. So the position that one occupies in the spiritual realm is not by might, is not by strength, is not by wealth, is not by beauty, but it is the realization and how closely linked or united one is to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is actually the yardstick of measurement of a senior devotee. And a senior devotee will not do anything that is detrimental to the service of Krishna or detrimental to the execution of devotional service. So Krishna here explains very nicely that the action and the activity have to be Krishnized. That everything that we do has got to be Krishna-centered. Krishna-centered. And by being Krishna-centered, then we can claim that everything is right. Because as Prabhupada says here, but one who knows the instrument of work, himself as the worker, and the Supreme Lord as the Supreme Sanctioner, is perfect in doing everything. Such a person is never illusioned, and the personal activity and responsibility arise from false ego. So Arjuna was trying to take personal responsibility for the war. He did not realize that Krishna had prearranged this war, and that it had a certain particular purpose, it had a certain particular destination, and it had a certain particular lead in what we call the history of human salvation. In the history of human salvation, the battlefield of Kurukshetra had a part to play. One, it was to clear the miscreants. Two, it was to reestablish the principles of religion. Three, it was to show who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and 4, it was to clear all the forces that had been amassed that were actually a big burden to Mother Bhumi, Mother Earth. So those aspects had to be cleared first. And to be cleared, Krishna had to speak the Bhagavad Gita. So when we are looking at all these things, we look at it that by and through the acceptance of Arjuna, Prabhupada states that one cannot understand the Bhagavad Gita unless and until they take the position of Arjuna. We have to have the humility of Arjuna to accept the authority of Krishna. Then and only then can we understand Bhagavad Gita. So when we are studying the Gita, we have to try and understand what was Arjuna's mood. How was Arjuna thinking when Krishna was telling him all these things? Was he accepting them or was he doubtful? Of course, in the conclusion of this chapter, we'll understand exactly the position of Arjuna because he ultimately accepts Krishna and he accepts what Krishna has said and he acts accordingly. So in the aspects of killing, we are told, here in Kenya we had some riots some time back. And we have the latest one is the Gen Z revolution. The Gen Z revolution as it's known. And unfortunately, those who were supposed to have gone to protect them and shield them from attacks were the ones who were attacking them. But being Kali Yuga, there's no action that has been taken. Innocent lives have been lost. Innocent lives have been lost. But no action has been taken. And when we ask for justice, then the victim becomes the victimized. He is victimized and he is forced to bear the burden of the wrongdoing of the law enforcers, which is very, very sad. So we have to have, in fact, in this country, we have some of the best laws in the world. And the only problem we have is how to implement them to the letter. Because if they are not implemented to the letter, then the laws are not even worth the piece of paper they're written on. They are not worth the piece of paper they're written on. But if they were being implemented, then we could have more sanity in our actions, more sanity in our politics, more sanity in our economic activities, more sanity in our education, and in the entire spectrum of what we do generally as a society. We could also be growing in faith towards Krishna back home, back to Godhead. But because we speak water, but drink wine, as they say, we speak water but drink wine, therefore we are not in tandem with our words. Our words do not reflect us. It's actually the exact position of the material world. In the spiritual world, the name Krishna and Krishna himself are non-different. But in the material world, any name you give here, even the name of a tree or a table, is different from the activity or the object of the table. If I say table, somebody will think of a round table. Somebody will think of an oblong table. Somebody will think of a square table. Somebody will think of a dining table. So when I say the word table, it means so many different things. But in the spiritual world, if I say the word Krishna, it's absolute. It's absolute. And that is why the Mayavadis have a problem of accepting Krishna, that Krishna does have its form. Why do they have that problem? Because they cannot accept that Krishna is non-different from his body. Krishna is non-different from his paraphernalia. Krishna is non-different from the jewelry and the clothes he's wearing. Krishna is none different from the land he's staying in. And because he is actually the supreme cause of all causes, therefore everything that is around emanates from him. So ultimately, Krishna is everything. But at the same time, he is also not everything. This is nicely explained in the Ishopanishad, how the differentiation of the person of Krishna, the expansions of Krishna, the paraphernalia of Krishna, the activities of Krishna are being done. And that is why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came with this philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, simultaneously same and also different, so that he could distinguish that despite the fact that Krishna never leaves Goloka Vrindavan, but he can still come to Gokul Vrindavan. He can still come to Gokul Vrindavan, at the same time remaining there. He even showed that when he was in Dwarka, he had how many? 108,000 wives. And in every house he expanded himself. There was never any of those queens who complained that, no, I did not see my husband today. But here in this world, if even a man has two women, then there's a problem. Big problem. But in Krishna's time, Krishna, everything was running perfectly. Everything was maintained by him properly. And he was in supreme control. So we are told that Krishna, being the super soul within, gives directions to the Atma within. To the surrendered soul, he'll know how to listen and recognize the voice of the super soul. To a materialist, it will just be like an idea, a conception. He cannot listen to it because he is not used to those intricate relationships of listening to spiritual matters. He's not tuned to the spiritual matters. So Krishna is trying to show us that for us to be his proper devotees, we have to be fully subjected to him, fully surrendered to him, and fully dedicated to his service. Then and only then can we actually consider ourselves to be his devotees. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.